I'm James Hudson. I'm creative director at Elvis, one half of a creative director team. We work at an ad agency, usually based in central London, but I guess, as like everyone, we're currently working remotely from all over the UK at the moment.
Hello, I'm Rhys Hughes. I'm a creative at Elvis and one half of Rhys and Barrett, the creative team who worked on the illegal blood ban.
Every year, millions of pints of life-saving blood go to waste because a discriminatory UK law bans all sexually active gay and bisexual men from donating, even if it's perfectly safe to use, and even though all blood is tested anyway. With men's blood in short supply, the government still wouldn't take it. So we did. We teamed up with Freedom to Donate to open the illegal blood bank. The world's first blood bank for gay and bi men, where members of the community donated pints of their blood in protest. We recruited donors using our social channels and pioneered a new individualized risk assessment that assesses donors based on their individual behavior, not their sexual orientation. All of the blood was tested to strict medical standards. And the results? 100% of the blood we collected was safe to use, showing that governments all over the world are ignoring millions of pints of life-saving blood with a policy based in bias. So we used the blood to make a statement the government could not ignore. We displayed the wasted blood and our results for the whole world to see. Those who couldn't donate on the day pledged a pint online. And allies of the cause showed their support by sharing our symbol. Our protest started a global conversation.
Dozens of gay men turned out in East London today to give blood.
A blood bank for gay and bisexual men in the capital has taken donations.
And more importantly, they listened. In just one day, we collected enough blood to save 78 lives. Imagine how many lives we could save if everyone had the right to give blood without bias.
So actually, interestingly, it didn't really start with Freedom to Donate. It started with Lad Bible Group. And essentially, Lad Bible Group have a huge youth audience, but they also recognize that with that huge reach comes a huge sense of responsibility. So they actually came to us looking for an idea that used their reach for good. They were looking for an idea that sort of championed a fairer, more equal society, that got their audience talking about real issues, which is why we then approached them with our idea to tackle blood donation discrimination, because we sort of landed on this insight that 1 in 4 of us will depend on donated blood in order to stay alive. But every year, millions of pints of life-saving blood goes to waste because of an outdated UK law that puts a blanket ban essentially on sexually active gay and bi men from donating, regardless of their situation, and even if their blood's perfectly safe to use. It's a tick box on a form that says if you're a man who's had sex with a man, you cannot give blood. So yeah, we just wanted to use the scale and power of their platform to raise awareness of this issue and try and instigate real change, because we couldn't believe that, you know, in 2019 this still existed, and the more we talked about it and shared it amongst the agency and our wider audience, we realized that people didn't know about this, and we thought that needed to change. We sort of collaborated on it with the guys at Lad Bible. We sort of delved into the data that they have on their huge 18 to 34-year-old audience. You know, they reach millions of these guys sort of daily, and so we sort of collaborated them on and did a bit of research into the issues that mattered to them most, and we did sort of land on this sort of more equal society. And then as we got further, we sort of fell upon this insight of 1 in 4 of us needing blood, but this discriminatory ban, and we both agreed that this felt like the right thing to do. This was something that we could and should do something about, really.
Just to touch on that, well, like it felt so little people knew about it. I mean, I certainly had never heard of it at the time, and yeah, it just kind of begged disbelief, really, that yeah, like you mentioned, James, in this day and age, this is still a thing, particularly when blood is in such high demand. The ideation process was kind of, it was a long one. We went through a lot of iterations, but initially we kind of sat with this issue for a while, and kind of delved deeper into it. And eventually we kind of came to this kind of moment of realization that although game-by men can't actually give their blood for transfusion purposes, there's nothing at all that stops us from collecting it anyway. So we kind of thought, well, why don't we open our own blood bank? Why don't we collect this blood and use it as a form of protest? I guess we kind of thought, if we can collect blood from the game-by community, test it to a proper medical standard, we could then hopefully show that this blood is safe for transfusion, but at the moment is being completely ignored. And what better way to then show the world than by physically displaying this blood, which could be saving lives, but is instead just being used to make a point. We built these monolithic kind of perspex plinths and tried to give them this kind of clinical look to give the people who donated this blood the respect they deserve, but also to make it really kind of striking so that anyone who was walking past it would want to come up and have a look, and kind of lit it with strip lights and what have you. And just the way that went down around London was amazing. It was so cool to be able to stand back and watch people come up to this monolith and read all the copy, read about the results. And like there were occasions where, you know, like parents were reading it out to their kids, educating the kids about it, and like, you know, teenagers were like taking photos of it and uploading it to their social channels. And just seeing these plinths all around London was quite a special moment as well, I think.
I almost sort of love about this campaign. It was so sort of different to what you normally do as a typical ad agency or as a creative in our ad agency. We had this sort of idea and this brief sitting in our laps where we had the ability to sort of make real change. But this idea of opening a blood bank is, I guess, we had no idea how the hell we were going to do this. And I guess that's the exciting bit about being a creative, is you come up with these ideas and you have these ideas you need to work with, and you've got to work out a solution to make it happen. And right from the off, I think we knew that this was an incredibly sensitive subject that needed to be treated with the utmost respect. But we also immediately realized that this was incredibly complex. This was such a complicated issue, because not only from a legal or a medical or a moral point of view, but how do you communicate all of this information in a simple way for an audience to sort of understand and take away and then act upon? Which sort of led to like hundreds of fascinating and at times frustrating conversations, if I'm being honest, along the way. Because I think, as it turns out, opening a blood bank's actually a pretty difficult thing to do. Essentially, we needed to find a medical partner first and foremost, who would be able to safely take and store the blood. We then needed a medical partner who was able to test the blood to the exact same medical standards as the NHS, which was vital for us, ensuring that our message had sort of credibility. But unfortunately, this turned out to be probably the most expensive part of the process. Testing blood is quite expensive, we found out. But we also had to study legislation from around the world, speaking to sort of blood donation and policy experts to ensure that this new alternative risk assessment that we were proposing was fair. It was an equal process for everyone and made the entire blood supply safer. Like this was a huge team effort. There's no way we could have done this on our own. But it was amazing to be a part of. And yeah, I mean, there were so many other hurdles that, you know, how do we find our donors? What if they didn't show up? We're launching this on a platform built for commenting and sharing. So how do we tackle homophobia? And then, you know, if that wasn't enough, there was the small matter of Brexit that got in the way of our launch date, which we had to sort of navigate and push back our launch date because there was an extension to Brexit, which sort of changed things for us. So, yeah, I think fair to say this wasn't your sort of typical ad campaign.
Yeah, seeing it all come together after, you know, jumping through all those hoops was just amazing, really. The actual donation day itself, I've certainly never been a part of anything like that. Just seeing all this hard work finally come together, from getting the donors down to, you know, this kind of visual world that we created, to like the little details on the blood bag, to then the stickers, the donor stickers and the donor cards that we're really pleased to see that the donors were kind of showing off with pride. And to be honest, it was humbling to see these guys come down from all over the country to give blood. Many of whom had never given blood before, for obvious reasons. And they were doing so knowing full well that this blood would not be used for transfusion. And it was just this amazing kind of buzz into the atmosphere. Everyone kind of doing their bit, from like the amazing nurses who kind of volunteered on the day, to the donors. And yeah, there was this kind of surreal moment at like 6 o'clock when we all kind of ran to this little laptop to watch the news and watch the illegal blood bank being featured. And at that moment, it was kind of this like, well, we've actually managed to sort of pull this off. It's a really kind of rewarding feeling. But obviously that wasn't quite the end. We then had to wait for the blood to get sent off and tested. And I remember that kind of day we got sent the results through, and yeah, 100% of the blood was safe to use, which was just amazing. And yeah, it was great. It just kind of showed that all this blood was all this work had been for good reason. It was kind of proving our point that this blood could have saved up to 78 lives, but instead it's just being used to prove a point. So we then kind of took it, put it in these beautiful little monolithic sort of almost sculptures that we'd created, and showcased the blood around London and in front of Parliament.
Yeah, it really was amazing. The day itself, it was kind of super emotional, really. Just seeing these donors, to Reece's point, just sort of coming from all over the country to donate for the first time, and some of the stories that they were telling us and sharing about, they were able to donate before they came out as gay. But then they came out gay and instantly were unable to donate, and the difficulties they've had along the way where they wanted to give blood but for family reasons or something like that, and they were unable to. It was incredible. And yes, and that moment at 6 o'clock when we made the national news and we had sort of 40 people gathered around a tiny laptop, it sort of, our message had got through, and it was all worth it, and it was incredible to be a part of. I mean, safety was priority number one. We're dealing with real blood here, which is very different to, I don't know, whether we're selling chocolate bars or something like that. It was a whole different ball game, and so safety was priority number one. And so we had to find a medical partner teamed with a location that was set up for this, that was able to donate blood, that wasn't sort of affiliated with the government, which was actually really difficult to do. There's not many of them. And there were sort of legal complications involved in doing things like this, which proved quite difficult. But we eventually found a place who were willing to help and were willing to sort of pledge their allegiance to the cause, which was incredible. The day we got that news was amazing. We thought it would be much easier than it was. And we managed to find it, but we had to keep that location secret, which played in perfectly to the sort of illegal nature of the way we approached the campaign. So we had to keep that location secret. And then we recruited our donors through Uniladen social channels. We asked for donors who were willing to come and give a pint of their blood in protest. We then had to, through a sort of email system, contact them with and release the location on the day that they could then go and travel and turn up and donate their blood. To sort of blur their faces, blur the nurses' faces and things like that, which played up to the illegal nature of everything and gave us a bit of creative license. But yeah, there were some very real legal implications of that too.
Yeah, just to touch on that kind of illegal side of it. Yeah, like James mentioned, we were kind of pixelating faces. We were using kind of almost documentary style body cams to give it that kind of secret camera feeling. And all of that kind of contrasted really weirdly with this kind of authentic clinical side of it. So on the one hand, you've got this really professional, really kind of legit clinical setup. But then on the other hand, why is this illegal? And they kind of played off each other quite nicely, to the point where even the really professional looking nurse ID tags had pixelated faces on them. So it kind of highlighted quite nicely, we thought, the fact that the absurdity of it all. Like, why is this illegal? We're collecting blood from these people, which is safe to use, but for some reason it still can't be used to save lives. It was really emotional, actually. So obviously there was the one element of it where we're finally seeing all this work come together, but then also getting to know and chatting to the donors. A lot of them had pretty harrowing stories as to why they want to give blood but haven't been able to. Not to mention the obvious just blanket discrimination. But there was a real feel of kind of protest. It wasn't kind of like a somber day so much. There's a real feel of kind of positive protest in the air. Everyone who was there was very happy to be there. A couple of people were a little bit squeamish about the injections, but other than that, there was a real feel of, yeah, we're actually doing something tangible here that people can talk about, can start a conversation, and can hopefully kind of change the legislation.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about what we've achieved here. Is I think we've sort of we've touched on it before, but we've sort of gone beyond just sort of telling people about this problem, about this issue, and we tried to find a solution to it. We tried to find a solution that solved this problem, that put in front of government and the powers that be a way forward out of this. And this wasn't just us saying this is wrong, this should change. It was just going, okay, this is maybe one way that this could be changed, and let's just open this conversation up. And physically opening a blood bank to and actually getting these people, these guys down here to physically donate a pint of blood was incredible to see, and super humbling.
Then a crucial part of it as well was, so like James has mentioned, we wanted to offer a solution, and part of that was working with Freedom to Donate, who are the pressure group fighting for this cause, to create an individualised risk assessment. And what that is essentially is an alternative way of screening donors, which assesses them on their individual behaviour, not their sexual orientation. So it's not like a blanket ban like it is at the moment. It treats everyone fairly, and hopefully would do away with blood donation discrimination. To begin with, we just had overwhelming support across the board from everyone, which was lovely. It was just great to know so many people are kind of behind the cause, from obviously the donors on the day to the thousands of other gay and bi men who pledged a pint on our website. Then also thousands of other people shared the Blood Without Bias symbol online. And this all kind of spurred a reaction from the government, and SABTO, who are the government body in charge of blood donation, among other things, put out a statement basically saying that they are now exploring whether they can introduce individualised risk assessment, which is a massive win for us. I mean, that is what it's all about. It's about introducing this new system that treats everyone fairly, that gives everyone the same equal opportunity to give blood, ultimately, hopefully leading to more blood being donated, but also doing away with blood donation discrimination.
Yeah, I think this is why the industry is awesome. I think we have the power to do so much, and I think this idea of it started on a piece of paper, and has led to this amazing thing. The fact that we were able to collect the blood, we were able to open a blood bank is amazing. But that was just step one. We were able to test the blood. 100% of the blood was safe to use, which was just perfect. It just proved our point perfectly. And then the fact that we had such an overwhelming sense of support that it was covered, by pretty much every news channel. The fact that SABTO are now investigating individualised risk assessment, which is what we put forward as a solution, in partnership with Freedom to Donate. So I don't think we could have hoped for better, and I think this is still ongoing, and fingers crossed it doesn't stop now. They keep pressing and they keep exploring, and hopefully sometime soon change happens, and everything will be better for everyone.
It feels amazing, to be honest, to be working on a brief like this. It's a once in a lifetime brief. It's not often you get the opportunity to work on something that could potentially make a real impact. Just the feedback that we've been having from it, not only to hear that this might actually be working, but just so many people getting in touch saying that they really stand by what it is we're trying to do, and it just still feels pretty surreal. Can't quite believe that we were given the chance to do this.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think like I said, we've got the power to persuade, and that's essentially what we do. We have the power to persuade people, and whether it's to buy a certain product or to vote a certain way, like that's what we need to do, and it's just great to use that for a great cause and a worthy cause, and something that essentially a campaign that we probably shouldn't have. We hoped to have to create, because we can't believe that this is a thing, and we have created it, and hopefully it leads to change and the end of blood donation discrimination. We could have just done a campaign that just told people about this, but we wanted to collect real blood. We wanted to have the real blood, to have a point to prove, to say, look, this is safe blood that is going to waste. And that was so powerful. And of course, that's way more complicated, but I think that's where the beauty of this idea sits for me. I think the visceral reaction to seeing this, to the tangibility of it all, to show that, yeah, this is a pint of blood that could be used to save lives, but due to outdated legislation, it's not able to.
Particularly with all the kind of news headlines at the moment about the need for blood, especially with what we're going through at the moment. Gay and bi men can't donate platelets to help with COVID-19 patients. And yeah, like you say, it's visceral. There's something inexplicably powerful about seeing real blood right there in front of you that, yeah, could be used to help people, but instead is here making a point.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it was a sense of responsibility they felt they had. I think a couple of years back they did trash aisles, which was very popular and very successful and a great idea. And I think they saw the success and the groundswell of like how powerful their audience can be if they unite them. And I think that was their primary focus. I think, yes, of course, they're a business, and there were no KPIs associated with this necessarily. I think this was just a sort of campaign to help achieve a bit of goodness and put a bit of good back in the world, really, for them. And I think we achieved that. I think this may potentially have the knock-on effect of showcasing what they can do as a brand and the power of their platform. I think that's pretty useful, and maybe to brands that work with them in the future. But that, yeah, definitely wasn't the primary focus or a KPI necessarily.
I think one of the things for me was, obviously this is a very different project. It's completely different to anything I've ever worked on before in terms of ad campaigns, which obviously comes with its own unique set of challenges. And for me, more than I've ever witnessed before in any other project, it's been such a team effort from every department, other parties that we were working with. Everyone really had to pull together to pull this thing off. And it was just really nice. Really, it just goes to show how much you can achieve when there's so many people, pulling together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I touched upon this earlier, but I just think, for me, you sort of, it's easy to get negative and say, oh no, you can't do that, or that's not possible, or yeah, great idea, but we'll never get that away. And these are sort of phrases that are thrown around all the time in our industry. And actually, the fact that we opened a blood bank is crazy now to say it, but I think it's amazing that you can find a way. There is always a way to do something. And yeah, I think the perseverance of the team when we were told, okay, we can't collect real blood, that's going to be a problem, and we could have gone, okay, well, let's not collect real blood. But for us, that was the heart of the campaign. So we needed to do that, and so we found creative solutions to those problems, and we kept going, and we kept getting knocked back numerous times. But credit to everyone really for persevering it and finding another way in, or a new way of doing it, or not getting disheartened, but to keep plowing on and achieve what we've achieved is persistence as much as it is brilliance, I think.